Hey everybody, welcome back. Wayne here. This week we're going to talk about untransformed pain and the idea that if we don't allow the pain to teach us, transform us, then we stay stuck in it, and all then we do is transform that pain and project it onto other people. After being a therapist for 15 years or more, I believe that there are few pains in our life that match the pain of infidelity. But there really are other painful situations, and we all know it, that can make our head spin with this mind-numbing disorientation. I want to start this week by telling you a story about my grandfather. His dad was a horribly abusive man. And when my grandfather was 17 years old, once again, his dad was going into this abusive rage towards his wife and his children. And my 17-year-old grandfather at the time had had enough. And he picked up a shovel and he hit him with it. He didn't mean to kill him, but he did. He had no intention for that outcome. But in that instant, 4 lives were changed forever. And my great-grandmother, the story goes, was distraught. And just didn't know what to do next. And she was furious with my grandfather. She looked at him and said, "Now look what you've done. What am I going to do?" Can you imagine the pain, the guilt, the regret, the suffering that my grandfather endured for years, and at some level for the rest of his life? After high school, he enlisted in the U.S. Army, and that was during World War II. And he fought with the Big Red One at the Battle of the Bulge, and he marched across France where he got frostbite, and then later started receiving $55 a month for the rest of his life because of that frostbite. After World War II, he came back to Dallas where he married my grandmother, and they raised 5 children, 4 daughters and 1 son. He was a general contractor. And he worked hard to eke out a living to raise his children. And he was very involved in his church. And he was later the commander of the Veteran of Foreign Wars there in Dallas. He was very involved with the Shriners. He gave back to his country and to his community. And he never spoke about the incident with his dad. And to my knowledge, he only spoke about the war twice. One time with my grandmother and one time with one of my cousins who was working on a school project. I think he learned to hide his pain, as so many veterans do, so many of us do. And in my eyes, I believe, and all the eyes of my cousins as well, that our grandfather was strong and he was a caring and a giving man. One of his goals was to never show weakness. And to do that, it became necessary to be tough. He was tough as nails and to work hard. And he believed that anything worth doing was worth doing it right. I think it's how he hid his pain so well. And hiding that pain is not the same thing as walking through the pain. If our pain isn't addressed, it will be transformed into something that we try to control or anger, emotional distance, emotional outbursts, anxiety, fear, shame, you name it. And we will spend the rest of our lives in denial and afraid of what others will do if they discover the truth. And we mistakenly believe that hiding the reality of our situation will somehow save us from that pain. Yet it only serves as a reminder or something that enslaves us to that very same pain that we're trying to get rid of. Hidden pain is transmitted on those that we love, just like my great-grandfather did to his family. You can see that our shame then negatively impacts all of those people around us that we love. And it serves only to fuel and perpetuate that cycle for generations and generations to come. Father Richard Rohr is one of my favorite people, and he says that pain that is not transformed will most assuredly be transmitted. He also says that healthy religion shows you what to do with the pain, the ludicrous pain, the heartbreaking, the senseless, the unmerited pains of our life. And it's clear to me at 58 years old that we all will suffer in this lifetime. We have to learn to see our wounds as a way through the pain. If we do that, then they become these sacred wounds rather than the scars that we keep trying to hide. Or worse, the pain to project onto other people. Learning to see our pain as a gift rather than an obstacle takes time and it takes work. And for many of us, healing is a long and winding journey. And if we give up too soon, we have a greater likelihood of becoming bitter and cynical and resentful. And our family and friends will be the ones that suffer, not only us. Because what we do is we project what's not healed in us. We have to find meaning for our suffering. That God or spirit or universe or whatever is somehow in it and can also use it for our good. If we fail to do that, we stay stuck in the pain. And I'm not saying that God causes suffering, but we will suffer. Even Buddha said to expect suffering in this lifetime. And this next thought is not going to be popular, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it's true and because Richard Rohr said it. We shouldn't try to get rid of our own pain until we've learned what it has to teach us. When we can hold our pain mindfully and trust that we're learning what it is we need to learn or heal what it is that needs healing within us, we will break through to a far greater faith and or higher levels of consciousness. I'm embarrassed sometimes to admit that after years of working to heal my own childhood wounds, I saw my first therapist when I was 17. I still have this knee-jerk reaction to try and fix the pain or to control it or to run from it or even foolishly try to understand it. Here's what I've learned is that the ego will always insist on understanding. And I can promise you that understanding is not enough. It will never be enough. Over time, I think my grandfather did transform his pain of childhood and adolescence and early adulthood even. I think it took him his whole life. And I know too that he wounded several people along the way. But by the time I came along, he was an awesome grandfather, strong and confident, and not at all afraid, really, to show his affection for his grandchildren and even his great-grandchildren, my kids. His influence lives on in each of us in some silly ways and some impactful ways. One thing is for sure, that my cousins and I, we love peanut butter. And we love it on biscuits and waffles and bagels and even cream of wheat or malto meal. We all love orange marmalade too. And I think that's for years of growing up and getting up early when you get to spend the night with them, to get up and make breakfast with him. He would let me put biscuits in the pan and arrange them however I wanted to and sit on the counter while he did the rest of the work. Great, great memories of this kind, strong, and loving man. But given his experience as a teenager and him seeing the horrors of war, he certainly dealt with pain and grief and regret, control, fear, shame, the likes of which I hope I never know. He made mistakes, but I got to see a man that learned to love his family. His generation of men, they didn't go to therapy. They worked hard. They went to church. They served their country. And I know my grandfather ran a tight ship. I think he learned over time that you can't ignore the pain. And I'm more than sure he tried. But the problem with pain is that it can't be ignored. You may be thinking that you can ignore the wounds perpetuated by others, or even those wounds that you may have created by your own poor choices. But it's just not true. Pain has an impact and this compounding effect on our nervous systems and the nervous systems of other people. The question is, do we have the courage to walk mindfully through the pain and honestly deal with its impact? The solution doesn't lie in pretending the situation never occurred. Rather, it's the ability to accept what happened, just that it happened, not that it was okay, and then to walk through whatever is necessary to address it. Rick says, you may have heard him say this, we get what we need by walking through what we never wanted. That is so true. It does take a great deal of courage to face life on life's terms, but it's the only path to maturity and to growth, and I think also even to fulfillment. For my grandpa and his children, I wish he had been able to face his struggles earlier in life rather than feeling like he had to hide them. I am so proud to be his grandson, and I honestly believe I would have even been more proud of him if he had known what we know today about facing the pain head on, facing the pain of this life and letting it transform you. Now, many of you may be wondering, but I hope not, what this has to do with infidelity. The answer is everything. Everything. How you decide to respond to your pain will partially determine the future of your children and your friends and your family. You're either going to pretend normal and deny the reality of your situation and your pain, and then you'll inadvertently transmit it to the next generation. Or you're going to face it head on and move through it, allowing it to be redeemed and letting it become a part of who you are, a part of your story, a part of who you truly are. If you choose to deal with the infidelity rather than hiding or avoiding it, you allow it to become a part of life's story. Not the whole story, but it's a part. I promise it will set you free, and it will send you toward the life that you've always wanted. And it won't be this big thing in the room forever. Failure to do so will result on passing on your unfinished business and your pain and your hurt to those that you love. It is never, ever too late to address the pain. Whether you're just embarking on this healing, recovery, redemption journey, or you're going around that mountain one more time, I want you to consider the Hope for Healing course. It's a sure path for addressing the pain, your own and the pain that maybe you have caused. It is one of the safest professional environments that you'll ever be a part of. It's facilitated by a leader that has encountered and has survived or is surviving infidelity. Walking through the pain is not easy, but it is well worth it. Not only for yourself, but also for those that you love. So I would strongly invite and encourage you to find out more at the Affair Recovery website under the Programs tab. I think it's a great investment to your life and to your healing and for those around you. So thanks so much for joining me and talking about this topic that I get kind of passionate about, that we have to transform our pain. And for many of us, we're lifers. It'll be a lifelong journey, but it is so worth it. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll be back again next week. Have a good week and stay safe.